We're talking about factoring by grouping now, and a couple of things that you'll notice here. Again, factoring by grouping. I wrote the phrase four terms here, and the reason I wrote that is because that is when you use factoring by grouping. So anytime you see four terms in a polynomial and you are asked to factor, the method that you are going to use is called factoring by grouping. Now, anytime you do a factoring method, you always look for a GCF first, but most often there will not be a GCF in the problems. Not every time, but a lot of times there will not be, and so therefore we come up with alternate methods for factoring. Excuse me. So, before the end of the chapter, we're going to see 6 methods, and this is the second method called grouping. Now, the way grouping works, y'all, and you see an example already written here, and again, you'll notice that it has 4 terms. Now, for the whole problem, there is not a GCF, but if you group it, now grouping means taking the first 2 and then doing the second 2, and although the whole problem does not have a GCF, each particular group does. So what you want to do is take a GCF out of each group. So the first group, the GCF is going to be x squared. And for the second group, the GCF is going to be negative 2. Now again, make sure you know when it should be negative. If that middle sign, which is the lead term in that group, okay, or the lead sign in that group is negative, then your GCF should be negative. If that had been a positive, then the GCF would have been positive. Okay, it's very important that you get that sign correct. Now what happens when you take an x squared out is that you have x plus 6 left over. Remember what we did with GCFs. That and that divided give you what's in the parentheses. And then we have minus 2, the GCF on the second group, and again x plus 6 is what's left over. This is going to happen every time you do a grouping problem. You're going to group them the way we just did, factor out GCF out of each group, and then you're going to notice, if you've done it correctly, that the 2 parentheses in here, this one and this one, will always match. Now when they match, here's what you do. You take these 2 terms here that are on the outside of the parentheses and combine them into one parentheses. So I'm going to take x squared minus 2 and put those together. Again, take these 2 outside terms, put them together. And then next to that, I bring down the matching parentheses. I don't bring them both down, I just bring it down one parentheses which contains what was in the matching parentheses. And that's your answer right there. You could always FOIL these out if you want to. We've learned to do that already. You could FOIL that out or multiply it out, and you would see that it equals the original polynomial. And that's always a good way for you to check your factoring. Okay? So that's the way factoring by grouping will work. Let's look at another example now. Look at this one here. First group. Think for a moment about what is the GCF for this first group. Okay, so the first group GCF would be x. That's a letter that's common to both of those terms, and that would be your GCF. Do the same thing now on the second group. The GCF would be 2. So you take the x out of the first group, you have y plus 6 left over. You take a 2 out of the second group. Once again, no surprise, because it's supposed to happen. You have y plus 6 in the second parentheses. Just like we said was going to happen, the 2 parentheses match. And just like we said earlier as well, when that happens, put those 2 together, x plus 2, and bring down the parentheses that matches, which is y plus 6. Okay, and pretty much all grouping problems are going to work like that. So don't be surprised. They always work like that, and they'll always be set up to work like that. So on this slide here, you see 2 problems. I want you to pause the video and try to factor these 2 out, and then we'll come back and do them in just a minute. Okay, so I hope you took the opportunity to work these, and let's see how you did. First group here, taking x squared out. Second group here, remember the negative, take a negative 2 out. That would be x squared times 3x minus 2. minus 2 times 3x minus 2. And again, notice the signs here. This is a negative over negative, which makes that a positive. Positive over negative makes that a negative. And you know, the signs have to match, so that worked out pretty well. And indeed, the parentheses do match, so therefore we take the x squared minus 2, put it together, take the 3x minus 2, bring it down. And that right there, let me highlight it, that right there is your answer. On the next one, the GCF for the first pair is x. That would leave you with an x plus a. I can write it like that if you want me to. Second pair, the GCF is b. Take a b out. That will leave you again with x plus a. Match in parentheses, so put these together, x plus b. Then bring down the match in parentheses, x plus a, and that will be your result. If you have any questions, please let me know. And go ahead and do your homework as soon as you can, and you'll get through these pretty fast. Okay, thanks.